So you would like to know how to make a homemade substrate for mosaics? Well, you're in the right place. I'm Helen Miles and I'm here to teach you all the tips and tricks you need to make mosaics. This is what we're going to be making. These mosaic substrates are very simple to make and are extremely versatile and lightweight. You can choose how thick you make them. They can be just 2 layers, like this one, which means you can cut them into any shape you like, or you can make thicker ones, which means they're stronger and firmer, and you can put hanging fittings into them. So this is the 2-layer one, and as you can see, it's pretty bendy. Here are a couple of mosaics that I made on these homemade substrates using just 2 layers. The good thing about the thin ones, the thin substrates, is that if you're making a smallish mosaic like these two, let's say up to about 30 centimetres or about 12 inches diameter, then you can just cut away any excess substrate with ordinary kitchen scissors. As you can see how easily it goes through. However, don't forget that the 2-layer substrate is pretty bendy and lightweight, so it's not good for heavier or larger mosaics. In that case, your best option is to create a substrate using 4 layers of mesh and tile adhesive or thinset. The other thing not to forget is that mixing tile adhesive thinset is messy, so make sure your surfaces are protected, including the floor under where you're working. This is what you will need: tile adhesive, which is the same thing as thinset. I've already done a video on how to make thinset, so watch that if you need any more information. So I keep small quantities in a tub like this, just because it comes in big 20-kilo bags, which is a bit inconvenient, and this can just sit on my desk. You'll also need a tub or a bowl or an old yoghurt pot to mix it in, a spoon or spatula to stir it, and water to add to the mix, and also a dust mask. Now this is a pretty fancy one, but you can get kind of regular dust masks. Whatever you get, it's really important to wear one because tile adhesive is a cement-based mixture, compound. So very fine particles get in the air and you'll breathe those in unless you're wearing a mask. So it's super important. And you'll also need a plastic sheet to cover your surface, and just an old plastic bag or anything will do. And last but not least, you need 4 pieces of mesh, roughly cut to about the same size. So they don't have to be perfect because you can tidy up the edges later. So I'm going to start off by mixing the tile adhesive. I'm going to make probably about 4 heaped tablespoons and add the same quantity, obviously not heaped, but 4 tablespoons of water. And what I'm aiming for is to get a nice thick paste like peanut butter. I'm going to put my mask on so I won't be able to speak clearly while I'm doing it. So that's why I'm telling you now. once your tile adhesive thin set is ready, then just leave it to slake, which means leave it to sit for about 5 minutes. So the other thing you need, which I forgot to mention earlier, is a spatula or just an old knife to spread the tile adhesive thin set. So you start with one piece of mesh, and you've got your plastic underneath, and you just take a splodge of thin set and put it on the mesh. So you're spreading it thinly and evenly over the mesh, right up until the edges. So as you can see, it goes through the mesh, through to the plastic on the other side, and you can still see the mesh. So it's a very thin layer. You don't want any ridges. So as I said before, it's not super important to be tidy at this point, because you can tidy it up once it's dry. So now I'm putting my second layer on and doing the same thing again. So this is a great thing to do if you have some leftover tile adhesive at the end of the day. You can just make yourself some substrates and leave them to dry overnight, and they'll be ready for you in the morning. So there we have it. That's a 2-layer substrate. So you just keep going, adding more layers, depending on how thick and firm you want it to be. So I'm going to make this into a 4-layer substrate. So I'm adding my 3rd layer of mesh and carrying on with the adhesive. So now I've finished my 4 layers, and I'm going to leave that to dry. I would give it 24 hours. It will probably not need quite as long as that, but you may as well give it 24 hours. And if you live in a particularly hot part of the world, then I'd recommend that you lay another layer of plastic over the top, just so it doesn't dry too quickly. So this is one I made earlier. It's just a 2-layer substrate, and I added black pigment to create obviously a black substrate. If you want to know about adding pigments and other aspects of mixing tile adhesive thin set, then please watch my other video, which I will link in the description below. So this is dried, and it's and all you do when it's ready is simply peel it off the base, and it comes away easily because it's on plastic. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, then please subscribe below.